Greetings, I am Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator, today with Pillar Loves Tabletop Games. Today's episode is The Great Split. So the game I got to play as part of the final for a board game league. I want to say it was either last year or the year before that. Either way, I didn't win the game, but finally got another copy, so picked it up. Well, the game is to have the most prestige. To do that, you're going to need to trade wisely with your opponents in order to build up various resources and build up seals to match with your contracts to make them worth more. Per the setup of the game, each player gets their board, their starting cubes, or their cubes for tracking things, their starting character, which may start with resources or seals, a little bit of both, and will have extra contracts at the end of the game. You'll need your envelope with the matching splitter card. Everybody will start with 4 of the level 1 cards, or stage 1 cards. The board out here starts with the stage 2 cards, stage 3 cards shuffled, the first round marker here, or the current round marker for the here is sort of the first round. Random tokens from the set of 9 that will alter the art market. The 4 mid-game scoring tokens, shuffled and dealt randomly to these 4 spaces, which will get in some extra points before the end of the game, which will also finish off the points. And then you'll need someone to consider the host. So they'll be the ones dealing things out, making sure this is kept up with. Oh yeah, the little art market slider starts here. Once everyone's got their cards, it's time to start. Start of the round. Each player will draw a card from that stack. So level 2 for stage 2 to each of these players. You'll then reconcile your hand down to that number. So 5. At the start of the game, everyone should be at 5 after that initial deal. After future splits, it's entirely possible that one person is taking the 3, gets 3 back, and then is getting the card is going to have to reconcile down. There will be more cards as the game goes on, and more valuable cards as the game goes on. So once you have what you've got, you're going to need to set up the split. So you'll take your cards and split them into 2 groups. The splitter card in between. 3 books is pretty nice, but I would rather they take the 3 books than the gems that I'm trying to work on for this and my contracts and start working on building up those seals if I can get those cards. So once you've established the split, it goes into your envelope and is passed the player to your left. The player to your right has been doing the same, and has their splitter in there somewhere to force you to make a decision. So you get the envelope from that player, and you'll have to decide on one side of the split card which group to take. You're not allowed to rearrange anything during this step. You're on your honor, but I'm sure people are probably going to be watching at the start of the game. You got your neighbors to keep an eye on you, keep you honest. So let's say we take this because that seal that seal will help. All right. So those are the cards I keep. Remaining cards go back in the envelope. Go back to the player to the right. Let's say the player to the left decided to go ahead and keep the books or tomes. They pass my envelope back to me. So now I've got the cards that I kept from the player to my right, and the cards I got back from the player on my left, and my splitter card. One at a time. You will play cards either face up for their benefit. So I'm going to improve my seals for topazes. And then just keep playing cards and moving things as you need to. Stars, move up the prestige. Well, sculpture moves up art. Books move up the book track. Coins move up the coin track. And then the gems move up their respective tracks. One, one. All right. And finally, you have to make a move with your splitter. You can move up any track, whether it's a seal or a resource. I'm going to go ahead and move up the green seal. That way, my contracts on my character are worth something. Now, you may look at what you've got and think, this is really too late to do anything about, like later in the game. And instead, just put it face down instead of face up, instead of getting what was on the card, and instead get something else. Or get a coin or a prestige point. Prestige point is redundant, but it gets the point across that prestige is points. This is how you win. But I'm taking it as the coin so I can get it closer to the push forward 2 effects. So on each of these tracks will be little symbols of that item in a diamond that represents a contract. Every one of these is part of the score when it gets to the end of the game. The other part of the score is the seal track for it. So let's say let's say we get books up to 3 on the contracts, and I get up to the 2 stars here. So 3 times 2 is going to be worth 6 points for the end game scoring. And then once everyone has figured out all the moves they need to make, we reveal the adjustment to the art market. And then proceed to the next turn. Again, draw a card, reconcile your hand down. You probably want to discard lower value stuff, unless you don't see anything else for it. Maybe holding on to the lower value stuff might help with uh, creating splits in your favor. So part of the strategy is you pay attention to what the person to your left is going to focus on, what you think they're going to focus on, or what you hope they're going to focus on, and you try to make the split in a way that they're taking what you want them to take. and the other half of the split is what you need personally. So yeah, mid game scoring. So when it crosses that line, or that line, it'll do the appropriate scoring on those lines. So scoring tomes. There is a silver little banner. So the furthest banner that the purple marker has crossed gets that many prestige for tome scoring. So here I'd get 8 points. There, 8 prestige. For art scoring, we look at, let's see here. At this point, we were looking at how far along the track this has moved. So in order to get any points at all for the art, I would need to have at least 4, because that would get me 6. 7 would get me 10. 8 would get me 13, and at least 11 would get me 15. Good luck getting to that point. And then by the end of the game, the market's moved all the way up to a certain number. So that would be 12. Yeah, the actual market adjustments. There's a 0, 2 ones, 3 twos, 2 threes, and a 4. So the market's going to be anywhere from 8, 8 art for 10 prestige to 16 art for 10 prestige. If you're going for the art game, you gotta really play the long game on that. Gem scoring. You look at your 2 tracks for gems. Whichever one is lower, you look at that number and you multiply it by 2 and you get that much prestige. So you're trying to build gems as evenly as possible. And then finally, there's the end game uh, contract seal scoring. Again, you'll add in your character's contracts to whatever contracts you built up so far, multiply them by the stars on the seal for the points for that group. You figure out all 5 of your groups, what they're worth, and that's how many points you'll have at the end after doing all the other scoring for tomes, art, and gems. Other stuff on this board, uh, the double arrow on money lets you move up another track by 2. It cannot be this track. These seals tracks will let you boost your resource tracks up here. Notice that the money and gems tracks are going to be shorter than the art and tomes. In the event that you cross 100 points, you'll move your marker there. If you somehow cross 200 points and you actually have it happen in game, let me know how you pulled it off. I'm curious. Yeah, most prestige at the end wins. Uh, if there's a tie, victory is split between the two or more players. Uh, Speaking of 2 players, uh, I'm playing with 2 players. During the setup, the level 1 cards that remain in a stack available to draw during the deal phase. In addition, after dealing each player card for the current round, they also get a card from the previous round as well, previous level. So it'll open up some really wild stuff. Because again, you'll have to reconcile, and you can either go for the larger ones or the smaller ones, depending on how you want to shape your splits. All right, so why do I like this game? That even though I didn't win it, I still wanted to get a copy. First off, it is just visually appealing. You know, a lot of the various kind of Art Deco type stuff. The character designs are pretty cool. Also, it is a fairly simple, quick game that still has some strategy to it in spite of the randomness. And if I'm gonna play a game, I want to have some kind of choice in the matter. This There's some interesting things that can happen in this game too. Imagine playing long enough that with a small group of players, like one card manages to get passed all the way around. Also, with fewer players, you're not going to see all the cards. So it's entirely possible that some tracks just don't go anywhere, except for that one person that's hoarding that card because they put it on the less attractive side of the split because they're counting on people not to take it. Yeah, it's. I want to believe that this is the second time they're doing this game, or at least a second edition to this. If I remember correctly, the envelopes in the version someone else had, I think they went up to here. This holder part up to here. I think I don't remember correctly, or I'm trying to imagine. My imagination is going wild with how I remember the last time I had this game or played the game. Yeah, this is kind of neat. I need to fold up the well just to make absolutely sure it's secure. But really, if you're playing quick, you're probably not closing it all the way. You just like fold it here. Here you go. I want to see this game with 7 players. We already did for the board game league a game with 8 players. So I definitely want it's definitely possible to try this out with 7 players and see how that goes. But yeah, it is. It's a great split. It is a good game. I recommend it. Try it out. Have fun. Um, one other thing, after playing a game of it, if you notice something about the way people's sitting order kind of influences how they play, try mixing up the seating order in between games. Yeah, it's a good game. Check it out. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Pillar, and I'll see you next time.